This is the Volkswagen ID Buzz, a modern interpretation of the legendary flower power hippie T1 Volkswagen Bus, with all the benefits and also some challenges. So, let's get to it. Designing versions of model with cult following is always tricky. The designers have to face the company's heritage and pay no attention to criticism from the fanboys of the only one and true. Yes, VW knows you're not a sellout, you're never gonna buy one, nobody's going to lose sleep over it because this car is not for you. So, who's the ID Buzz for? VW says it's for youngsters and families. Apparently, I'm a youngster. I like practicality, I like gadgets, and I like to stand out from the crowd. The more obvious group is families, young, at least one kid, but, spoiler alert, if you're planning to have a small soccer team, this is not the car for you. More about that in a moment. The ID Buzz name is made up of two parts. ID is the VW's EV model range, and Buzz is an onomatopoeia for electrical current and a reference to the original VW Bus, BUS. In and around the car, there are some Easter eggs like smiley faces on door bolt plugs, a world map with a bully riding across it on the rear drawer, and another bully pic on armrests in the boot. Armrest in the boot? Does this mean a 7-seater is coming? Ultimately, yes. At launch, the ID Buzz is a standard 299cm wheelbase 5-seater like this one. It's 471 cm long. The cargo version is the same size, but with 2 or 3 seats. At the end of 2023, an extended wheelbase model will be offered. Both wheelbase and overall length will increase by 25 cm. The extended wheelbase model will be available as a 5, 6 or 7-seater. The 6-seater will have 2 seats in each of the 3 rows. As of early 2024, a standard wheelbase 6-seater will also be added to the lineup, and by the end of 2024, VW will launch a 6-seater with face-to-face seating in the rear. The third row of seats is described as removable. I suppose that means more comfortable seats than those kind of jump seats that you pull out of the floor in cars like the VW Charan, but it also means they will be harder to remove and store. It seems VW decided to save, and even the 5-seater gets the same boot finish like the 6 and the 7-seater, including additional cup holders back here. The boot itself is large and has a good shape. Its volume to the window line is around 1100 liters, double that with the seats folded. With the optional double floor, you get flat loading area without removing the rear seats. In this configuration, they don't seem to be easily removable anyway. The ID Buzz Cargo has 3.9 cubic meters of cargo area and 2 Euro pallets fit on the floor. But don't go crazy with cargo, because the maximum load capacity is, depending on the source, between 650 and 719 kilograms, probably depending on the equipment level and the powertrain. Depending on the powertrain, the ID Buzz can tow between 1 and 1.8 tons, the latter being reserved for versions which will be available in Q2 2024. Access to the rear is through sliding doors on either side. These may be electrically operated as an option. Also, sliding doors on both sides can be ordered as an option, obviously, on the cargo model as well, for easier curbside access. Now, according to VW, the rear bench is just 121 centimeters wide, which is not true in my Mini Countryman. It's wider, and here it's about 140 centimeters, realistically speaking. Now, that's still not very wide. I don't know why, since on the outside, the ID Buzz is wider than the T61 Transporter and even wider than the new Multivan. 3 individual seats are not even an option. The seats split 60-40. The ISOFIX mounting points are only on these 2 seats, so keep it zipped up, cowboy. The backrest is adjustable, and the bench slides 15 centimeters. There is no ski hatch, no armrest, no cup holders except for this, or you can throw something in the drawer of the optional ID Buzz box. Optional USB-C ports are on the doors. There are no air vents. But then on the T1 Transporter, everything was pretty Spartan as well, right? During the launch event, I asked around about the ISOFIX issue, and I was told, although there won't be 3 independent seats with 3 ISOFIX points in the second row, the 6 and 7 seaters will get additional 2 ISOFIX anchor points in the third row and an extra one on the front passenger seat. For now, as it stands here, the ID Buzz turns out to be more of a large station wagon than a real van. The ID Buzz cockpit is, in my opinion, the best version in all of the ID lineup. In a van, I expect space, which doesn't always suit a compact hatchback or a crossover. The driver's display is the same like in other ID models, but over here the drive selector is on the stock where the wipers would usually be. Therefore, the wipers are now on the left stock with the indicators, and the lights, like in other VW models, are on a panel above the driver's left knee. And over the right knee is a wireless charger and 2 USB-C ports. In the middle of the dashboard is a large touch display with some shortcut buttons underneath. Lower are the central air vents which blow air into your elbow, and at the bottom there are fold-out cup holders. There's a shelf above the glove box. I like the faux wooden finish on the dash. The ID Buzz interior is all environmentally friendly, recycled, sustainable and carbon neutral, says VW. As standard, the front seats get individual armrests in the middle and can be optionally equipped with armrests on the door side. Power adjustment with memory function for both seats is optional as well. Between the seats there is the optional, like everything here, Buzz box storage. The door pockets are large, and on the driver's side there is a door-mounted USB-C port. The ID Buzz debuts with a 204 horsepower electric motor and 77 kWh batteries. Claimed range is slightly more than 400 kilometers. Now, during the launch event, I won't be able to put this claim to the test, but based on my EV experiences so far, I suspect in optimum conditions around town, it is possible to achieve more or less what the manufacturer promises. As you leave the city, the range is likely to drop, and at motorway speeds, well, I'd look for a charger every 200, maybe 250 kilometers. But that's still better than the T2-based electric concept presented half a century ago during the Hanover Fair. Now, that had a range of up to 85 kilometers. Now, speaking of speed, this car has its speed limited to 145 kilometers. Future models with bigger batteries will have more power, higher torque, and they will be able to travel up to 160 kilometers. There is also going to be an all-wheel drive model. Regardless of the battery capacity, the ID Buzz can charge up to 170 kilowatts, and charging from 10 to 80% will take about half an hour. The 11 kilowatt onboard charging will top you up overnight. And rapid charging is now easier thanks to plug and charge. You just plug the car in and there is no need for additional authentication. So far, plug and charge works with Ionity, Aral, BP, Enel, E.ON, Iberdrola and Ivini. Other networks may join in the future, but that may require some of them to adapt their infrastructure, and that takes time and money. And yes, Tesla was first to offer this with its supercharger network. Plug and charge is one of several new features which appeared with the ID Software 3. By the way, the ID Buzz leaves the factory with ID Software 3.2. Other new features include advanced GPS-based parking assistant or travel assist with cloud data. The new parking assistant allows you to store up to 5 favorite parking locations, and the car will park for you when you arrive. This does require view of the sky, so it will not park in the garage, but rather in the driveway. Now, if you want to see how it works, I have an upcoming VW ID.5 review where I put the Park Assist feature to the test. Subscribe and press the notification bell, or better still, subscribe to my newsletter to get notifications about new episodes directly in your inbox.
Link is in the video description.
The improved travel assist gets information from the cloud, or the swarm, as VW likes to call it, and it works on roads with incomplete markings. If other VW cars drove down this road and shared their data, then my car will follow their virtual tracks. New ID Software 3 features will gradually trickle down to older models depending on their equipment. For example, ID3 and ID4 lack additional parking sensors required for the Park Assist feature to work, but the plug-and charge should be available for all cars.
How's the ID Buzz to drive? Well, it's as dull as other electric Volkswagens. Yes, it's quick off the line, but keep in mind you are going to be braking in a 2.5-ton car, so plan ahead. Despite almost 2 meters in width, maneuvering is relatively easy thanks to the 360-degree camera. Visibility to the front and to the sides is great. Also, thanks to the dedicated EV MEB platform, the drivetrain elements are far enough from the front axle to allow tight turning circle, just above 11 meters, not much more than the compact VW Golf.
At launch, the VW ID Buzz prices start at €54,270 net or €64,581 gross for the passenger model. The cargo is about $9,000 cheaper in Germany, but in Poland it costs almost the same as the People Carrier. Other trim levels will be available later on. I played around with the configurator and I spec'd this Pro model for a youngster like myself, reaching €62,000 net or €73,800 gross. And it is possible to go higher.
Volkswagen made us wait a long time for its funky electric van. The ID Buzz stands out and evokes positive reactions. However, like other modern interpretations of cult models, also this one is not a car for the people, but for the chosen few. Even more so when we take into account that VW has already sold most of its 2022 ID Buzz allocation. And how do you like the Volkswagen ID Buzz? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.